Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hey, great. How are you?
Do you prefer Mike or Evil better? Does it depend on the day?
It doesn't matter.
Glad you could join us today. Um, Hopefully, I will have sorted out my noobness here by the end of this session. Wow, it's pretty annoying. I hate seeming like a noob, but hey, it's how it goes sometimes. Uh, Heck, booting out of my Linux OS just to run a GoToWebinar is kind of a stretch for me. So Mike, you're a director of operations and a senior engineer at Shadowscape. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
All right. How long you been there?
We actually just started in August of last year. So
Awesome.
we're a pretty new startup, but we've got a very good new way of looking at threat intelligence and trying to kind of change the way that things are done right now.
Sweet. So you're not the only Shadowscape person presenting here today. We'll
I'm
be,
not. Nope.
be hearing from Nicole a little later on, which will be very cool. It says you have
Yeah.
8 years experience and
Yep.
passion
Yep.
for automation, which is key, snowboarding, skateboarding, mountain biking, and camping. That doesn't surprise me. Where's your favorite place to camp?
So I live in Colorado. So I mean, anywhere in the mountains, I'm very happy.
You got plenty of places to choose from. Awesome.
Yep.
So, anything else that you'd like to go over before you begin? Hold on. Let me take care of a couple things. Everybody, if you need to use the bathroom is okay. The bathroom's wherever you know that it should be. Let's see, anything else? If you're not in our Discord channel, please make sure that you jump in and can and chat with everybody or ignore everybody and still be in there so that we can chat at you. That's fine. A couple things. We have a virtual car hacking village CTF going on, put on by the standard car hacking village folks. We also have the first time run, I believe, of a COBOL CTF. Yes, you heard it. Capture the flag for COBOL. So anybody who has as much gray hair as I do, or worse. So check that out. That's all on the GRIMMCon main page. Any questions that you have, please post them in the questions list. Thank you so much for giving me feedback, because I am still learning how GoToWebinar does things. Sometimes I'm talking to you and you can't hear me. Also, if you do have a hard time hearing me, please post in a question there like you have been, and I will continue to take that as under advisement. If you do have audio problems or video problems, the number one troubleshooting tip, refresh your browser. The second troubleshooting tip, try a different browser. So get those things out of the way. It's kind of like the three-finger salute for Windows. That's the key answer for GoToWebinar. See, Evil Bit, take it away.
Thanks. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about a new concept in automation for threat intelligence and cybersecurity. Um, it comes from weather forecasting, and I think it could be very, very helpful for us. So we'll be talking about increasing efficiency of threat intelligence by leveraging cyclical automation. Just real quick, as we said earlier, Director of Operations and Senior Engineer for an intelligence-led service company. I have about 2 to 3 years of experience working with automation directly, and I think that it's definitely something that can really assist our industry without replacing the human element. Thoroughly bearded, as you can see. And again, love being up in the mountains.
Awesome.
So we're going to start off today on what is threat intelligence. Now, this topic can be a little controversial. It's been pounded into the ground by sales and, you know, buzzwords and everything, but it's important to understand what threat intelligence should mean. Threat intelligence is analyzing information and refining it. It's moving that information or that data from raw data to information and then finally to intelligence. Intelligence is specific to your needs, which is incredibly valuable and can have a direct effect on your network. It can also increase the efficiency of current network defenses with informed decision making. So you can actually position your defense systems and pivot them. So there's no more need to shotgun tools at networks. We're not having to continuously add new tools to a network that just causes more confusion, and there's a lot easier ways of doing things. Now, another benefit of threat intelligence is we're able to pivot defense systems based on what is over the horizon, because we're able to take that intelligence, apply it to the network, and actually look at the threats that are on the landscape that are happening and see if they're applicable to your network. Now, one of the things that we need to specify is what is not threat intelligence. Threat intelligence is not raw data feeds. Raw data feeds they're not applicable to you. They have not been refined down to actually hold any type of value. Feeds that are ingested into a SIM, again, same thing. This is just raw data being thrown into a tool. Now, the tool does bring a lot of benefits to the human, which includes no more having to struggle to look through raw text files or CSVs. We're able to visualize, we're able to do a lot more with the raw data. But that is not threat intelligence. Threat intelligence has to be refined and analyzed by a human. White and black lists, these are not threat intelligence. They can come from intelligence, but normally the publicly available white and black lists are very generic. They're not specific to your network, to your tools, to anything that's actually running. So, not saying that any of this is bad stuff. It's just this is not what threat intelligence is. So the goal of threat intelligence is to answer the so what, or why is this important? We need to make sure that when we're talking threat intelligence to a customer, whether it's an external customer, your manager, C-suite level executive, we're answering that why is this report or why is this concern important? And that is exactly what we're trying to do by refining that information, because it's not oh, this is important because X, Y, and Z. This is important because X, Y, and Z are directly applicable to our current network. So another thing that we're going to go over before we get too far down into the rabbit hole is automation. Automation is not a replacement for humans by any means. The goal of automation is to enhance the humans. Obviously, there's a huge skills gap in cybersecurity, and there's not an easy or quick way of us to actually fix this issue. It takes time for new people to come in, get trained, get certified. There's a lot of things that have to happen. So what automation can do is it can actually fill the role of some areas, as well as reducing the workload from our current professionals. And that's really important. We need people to do what they're best at, which is to analyze. Analyzing data is something that computers just can't do. Another benefit of automation is it can actually help to reduce human reaction time, especially when it comes to detection. Now, we can throw large data sets at different automated systems, and these systems will sit there and they will look for patterns, they'll look for various types of things, and we'll actually be able to move that response time very quickly. So if we have uh, a piece of malware that pops up on an endpoint, not only can we detect it very quickly, but we can also segment that that computer off of the network so it can't spread. We can initiate a hunt. We can initiate a lot of different things automatically, as well as alert and make it very visible. Automation, because automation adds so many benefits to a network, it helps to aid in decision making and prioritization. We're able to sort, we're able to alert, we're able to do a lot of different things and move pieces where they need to go so that humans can actually start to react to them and work with them very quickly, very easily. So the one downside that we're running into with our current automation is it's very linear. And by linear, I mean it's a process. So one of the things that we're going to look at right now is we're going to look at the difference between a process and a cycle. So a process has a defined start and stop. It's a series of actions that work in an order to get to a specified end. On the left side, you can see we've got a process. So the one big thing about a process is while it's flowing the way that it's flowing, we're getting a start and stop. If anything happens in between those, that process will end. On the right, we have a cycle. Now, the cycle continues to run and it runs constantly. Processes can work with cycles. A process can be a subpart of a cycle, but they are very different. Now, we can add some very light logic to a process, and that will create a stop and restart to the process. So it is kind of becoming a cycle, but there's a very big delay when it comes to that stop and start in a continuously running cycle. So one of the, this is an example of a linear playbook. These are exactly what it is. It flows along. This is just an example. This isn't a fully functioning workflow or anything like that. But as we can see, as we're moving down the workflow, we're coming to various decision points. And finally, we come to this decision point right here, was detected. Now, was detected, that provides that light logic of a cycle. So it goes into create, alert, quarantine, restart, whatever that action is, or we're ignoring this because it's no longer applicable to the current stage. Now we have restart workflow, and that is where we're starting to see that cycle or cyclical nature of our current automation. Now the problem with all of this is you have you're introducing delays in the automation. The delays that are here now, this is a very simple workflow. It's nothing that's too complex, but as you are adding more workflows or you're trying to cope with different different things that are happening, different outcomes of the information that's coming in, it can actually break that process, or that restart is actually causing so much of a delay because it's taking so long and information still coming in that it is actually going to it can start creating that information to be stale, and that's not good, that's not helpful. So as I mentioned earlier, cyclical automation comes from weather forecasting. Now, forecasters are leveraging this automation to reduce the delay because they have so many different data points that are coming in, so many things are happening all at once, and a general forecasting cycle is multiple cycles put together. Now, the first thing that we're going to look at is we're going to look at the collection cycle. All right, so we've got this. This is just one part of what is happening. Now, with all of the different data feeds that are coming in, whether they're just generic temperature, barometric pressure, or something as deep as the salinity level of the ocean at 100 meters that is sampled once every 6 months or once a month for a 6-month span. Now, all of these things are going to be coming in at various times, and the collection cycle has to continuously run. A cycle is not going to be stopped because one thing is delayed or things are coming in at different points. That's the whole point of a collection, or a cycle, I'm sorry. So the cycle is going to continuously run while these different things are coming in. Now, if weather forecasters were actually leveraging similar automation techniques that we are currently, then our forecast would be so far delayed because we're waiting for multiple things to happen. We might even be able to do it with multiple processes, but you're adding a lot of complexity and a lot of strain on management. This is going to become very, very overwhelming very quickly. So here's just a generic an example of the forecasting cycle. As you can see, we've got collection that's running nonstop, and then that's feeding analysis. Analysis is feeding modeling. Modeling is feeding forecasting. It's going to continue no matter what as new data is brought in, and it's going to be passed on to analysis, and it's going to continue throughout this entire cycle. With all of this happening in different phases and times, automation was imperative, and cyclical automation was eventually developed. This provided a number of different benefits, including intercycle dependency, as well as cross-cycle triggering. Now, another benefit that cyclical automation is bringing is it is not just a stop and start or run and repeat loop for this automation. It is continuously running, so there's no delays, and it can run indefinitely. So before we go too far into how this can be applied to threat intelligence, we need to look at a couple benefits of cyclical automation. Now, cycles are actually being automated instead of repeated. There's no stop and start, which is improving efficiency and reducing the amount of delays. Not only that, the cycle is not dependent on one specific criteria. It runs continuously, and it can accept a ton of different types of data that's being thrown at it. All it is it requires us to establish the specific listener that we need, but it's still going to continue to run. Now, intercycle dependency, this is providing a tolerance to delays because it's no longer waiting for that cycle or that phase to complete to move on. Now, it's able to just ignore a cycle that might be delayed with everything else that's coming in. Cross-cycle triggers is another benefit of cyclical automation. And all of these, and that is basically saying that we can trigger multiple cycles or other automations based on criteria from a different phase. Now, looking at the threat intelligence cycle, we can see that, again, it's a cycle. It's very similar to weather forecasting. Each of these different phases are going to be cycles of their own. But we're not operating currently with threat intelligence as a cycle. We are operating it very linearly, if it's automated at all. This is causing intelligence to start to lose its value because the the information is being delayed, and it's becoming stale. So if we applied cyclical automation to the collection phase of threat intelligence, we would see a number of those benefits that we talked about earlier. Very similar to weather forecasting. We have multiple things coming in collections that they could be different types of collection. They could be different areas, different sources, you know, anything like that. So we've got a lot of things that can be running and being collected. When we're talking about a phase or a linear type workflow, you have to try to match every single possibility that's out there and then try to prevent as much delay as possible. This is, again, just going to overwhelm any type of management or updating possibilities. So here we've got the threat intelligence cycle, and we've got the threat intelligence cycle. The collection cycle is being automated. Now we're going to continuously be feeding the next step, which is exploitation, but we also have the ability to do some cross-cycle triggering, which could throw some information over to analysis and make sure that, hey, we're actually looking at it and we're able to respond to it very quickly. Being, you know, we're applying the cyclical automation to the collection, so we're increasing efficiency. We're oops, hang on one second. Looks like I froze up. All right, let's go back. So anyway, so we've got this collection that's happening, and we're able to actually apply all of the benefits of cyclical automation, and we're increasing efficiency to make sure that that information is not going stale. Now, when we're talking about applying cyclical automation, again, we're able to run the collection phase continuously. We're reducing the amount of strain on humans that are that our current automation is doing. Now, this is a huge benefit. We're also able to add huge scalability because these cycles can run multiple areas, or we can have one cycle feeding multiple cycles. So if we look at this, you know, we have multiple threat intelligence cycles, and we have collections running on one cycle, which is feeding analysis on another one. This is based on the same requirement that's happening on multiple sources, or this could be two separate requirements, but as it's collected, it's finding, or it's able to throw information that's pertinent to the other cycle across, so that analysis is happening and we've got multiple feeds coming on. Now, this is a huge example of, you know, the flexibility and the scalability of cyclical automation. The scaling is much easier because a cycle can be reproduced without issues of dependencies, especially when you're talking about collections that could be coming from multiple types of sources. But we're also able to see that we're able to scale this out, and it's scaling out very quickly. One of the things that I do want to show, and this is not necessarily pertinent to threat intelligence, but just cyclical automation as a whole, we can have all of these different cycles running and feeding all of these other cycles. Now, as you can see, the red cycle that's happening up here, that stopped while everything else was running. That's an example of an intercycle dependency. Now, just because that red cycle stopped, everything else is not having to stop. We're able to continue to run and continue to feed the other cycles, and everything else is continuing on as it should. We're not having to stop, delay, or do any type of information that, or any type of actions, because that one cycle stopped. Now that could be a collection on a .onion forum that has migrated. That could be, you know, different types of causes for delay. Maybe the information just hasn't come in when it was supposed to. Now, with all that being said, humans are still required. We have to make sure that that is well known, because, you know, there's always a fear of computers taking over our jobs. Humans can't do a lot of the processing and thoughts that, or the thought processing that humans can. There's no gray area with computers. It's ones and zeros, start and stop, on or off. So humans bring a lot of benefits to what we're trying to do. So they have gut instincts. They're able to continuously change their thought process when it comes to new information that's being provided. So what automation should be doing is it should be reducing the workload that's on the analysts and on the humans, so that they can continue to run and do what they're supposed to be doing, which is analyzing the data. The thought processes, all of the information that's happening currently, you know, all of this stuff has to be looked at from a different perspective. Instead of us looking at automation as something that's bad or something that's new and scary, we need to start actually putting efforts into building up more automation, and especially in my thought, cyclical automation. You know, we have to start to change with the times. We have to start to match what we're capable of doing with some automation. So, you know, quick conclusion, we are automating to help, not to replace. That is something that I want to hammer home. Automating cycles is incredibly important, so that we can actually continuously run, continuously operate, and reduce delays. Now, instead of us looping and introducing more and more delays as workflows become more and more complex, if we're able to focus on automating cycles, we'll be able to actually increase our efficiency. Another huge benefit that we talked about is delays aren't going to break cycles, because the delay is just part of it. It's able to ignore that delay with all of the other stuff that's coming in and continue to throw it down for the rest of the cycle to continue to operate. And finally, you know, threat intelligence should be more efficient, but it also should play a much bigger role when it comes to network defense operations. We mentioned benefits earlier. We are able to reduce cost. We can actually look at the threats that are happening out there and make sense of them and decide whether they're pertinent to our information or to our network or not. So there's a lot of benefits that are happening out here. So, you know, I hope that you guys can understand where I'm coming from and take a look at, you know, a lot of the stuff that was presented today, and really start to glean some information and maybe even make some sense out of how we can do automation better, especially when it comes to cycling. Is there any questions?
Very nicely done, Mike. Thank you. A few comments. Most of them were just really complimentary. A guy named Joe says, "Hey, Mike, deliver the smackdown." Woo! From Miguel, "This is really good stuff. Nice approach." Paul asks, "What tools are doing this in cyber?" That could be a good
So,
tool.
Yeah, as far as I know, you know, with all of the research that I've been doing on cyclical automation, there isn't any cyclical automation tool out there for cyber. One of the things that I've come across in my my research is it's a tool called Cylc, CYLC. It's on GitHub. And that was it was made for weather forecasting. So what that tool does is it actually takes a cycle and it unravels it, and it just applies a repeat infinitely. So there's never a stop. It's a true cycle that's being automated, but it's just breaking it down and making it easier to work with. It's a really cool tool. I'm actually working on building a POC right now to apply or use that tool for threat intelligence and for cybersecurity. So hopefully that'll come together real soon.
Very nice. Oh wow, there are a few more questions just popped in here. By the way, I love the presentation. Your slide deck is amazing.
Thanks.
There's so many things that you hit on that have a lot of corollaries throughout the entire cyber world. What savings have you managed for the intelligence lifecycle? That's Jay.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, the question is, what savings have you managed for the intelligence lifecycle?
So again, this is a very new concept.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't really seen the benefits of it just yet. You know, it's something that I'm trying to build out, and it's something that I'm just now introducing to cyber or threat intelligence. But you know, the potential for the savings using cyclical automation is just tons and tons of time. You know, right now we could have listeners that are listening for JSON to be thrown or API calls or all this stuff in that phased approach or that process approach. Again, as we're able to reduce the delays in that information coming through, then we're actually going to start to see that savings. We're going to start to see the benefits of it. You know, the information that's coming in is fresh instead of it decaying and starting to go stale for the analysts.
Mm-hmm. Any preferred software tools for managing the cycles and phases? That's from Brett.
Nothing out there just yet, as far as I can tell. If anybody knows of anything or has come across this before, I would love to speak to them about it, because as of right now, I'm just kind of hacking this from weather forecasting and trying to make it fit with threat intelligence.
So Micah takes a slightly contrary view and says, well, he's saying a lot of the same things, but he says, I would like to say humans do not do analysis of data. They should be doing exceptional analysis, exceptions analysis. Systems should produce exceptions for review.
Sure.
What do you say to that?
Sure. And you know, the analysis portion is that I talked about is just very generic. You know, I'm not trying to get down deep into what humans are doing or how they should be doing it. But basically, what we want to do is we want to make sure that there's an emphasis on humans are still very important. They're still very much needed. So you know, it's not automation trying to take away jobs or anything like that.
Sure. Indeed. And let's see, yeah, the purpose of automation. Turns out the importance of automation plays throughout computer science. Everything that we do, infotech, infosec, hacking, benefits from computers doing what they do well so that we can do what we do well. I love the point that automation is not threat intelligence. It can't replace a person, but it can help them focus on what's important and what they're good at. Thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate you, and you have a great one. Anybody who has extra questions, we got to draw this to a close, but Mike should be available in the Discord chat, so reach out to him and ask any questions you might have.
Great. Thank you.